The roots of the Egyptian police historical valor extend from decades ago, when they presented the martyrs and struggled for the sake of the homeland during the historical Ismailia epic, which is the most widely circulated record of honor in the sacrifices of police heroes. On January 25th of 1952, the Egyptian police forces refused to surrender their weapons and evacuate the governorate building to the British forces. And the clash between the Egyptian police and the British forces resulted in the killing of 50 Egyptian police and 80 wounded people. And the British forces took over the Ismailia governorate building to turn January 25th into a police feast celebrated every year. It is a national day for Ismailia governorate and became a public holiday in Egypt. The height of the tension between Egypt and Britain had reached a high level. The British losses were fatal, especially in the first period. The withdrawal of Egyptian workers from working in the English camps led to an embarrassing situation for British forces in the Canal District. And when the government announced the opening of offices to register the names of camp workers who wished to leave their work as a contribution to the national struggle, 91,572 workers registered their names from October 16th of 1951 to November 30th of the same year. And the contractors also stopped to deliver vegetables, meat and other supplies for the 80,000 troops and British officers. On the morning of Friday, January 25th of 1952, the British commander in the Canal area, called Brigadier Axum, ordered the Egyptian liaison officer to deliver and surrender the arms of the Egyptian police and evacuate the governorate house and the barracks and leave the area of the entire canal. The governorate rejected the British ultimatum and informed him, and to the Minister of Interior, Fuad Sarageddin Besha, who approved the position and asked to preserve, resist and not surrender. The British commander in the canal lost his temper, and his armed forces, tanks and vehicles besieged the Ismaili police department after sending an ultimatum to the police chief, who asked him to hand over the weapons of his soldiers, but the police officers and soldiers refused this warning, and the British tanks and their cannons were directed at the Ismailia governorate building. The British fired their bombs in a concentrated and gruesome manner without interruption for more than an hour. And the police forces were armed with nothing but their old regular rifles. Before sunset that day, the small police building and the Governorate building in Ismailia were surrounded by 7,000 British soldiers equipped with their weapons, supported by their heavy Centurion tanks, armored vehicles and field cannons, while the number of Egyptian soldiers trapped was no more than 80. They only carried guns. The British continued to use all their weapons to bomb the Governorate building. Yet the Egyptian soldiers resisted and continued their fight with great courage and bravery. And an unequal battle took place between the British forces and the police forces, which resulted in a massacre that did not stop until the last shot, with them running out after 2 long hours of fighting. 50 of them were martyred. Brigadier Axum could not conceal his admiration for the courage of the Egyptians. So he told Lieutenant Colonel Sharif al-Abd, the liaison officer, the Egyptian policemen fought honorably and surrendered with honor. So it is our duty to respect all of them officers and soldiers. And the soldiers of his British platoon performed a military salute in line with the Egyptian policemen upon their departure from the Governorate House and their passage in front of them in honor and appreciation of their courage. On the morning of Saturday, January 26th of 1952, news of the accident spread throughout Egypt, and the Egyptians received that news with anger and discontent. And the massive demonstrations came out in Cairo, and the police officers participated with university students in their demonstrations, and the demonstrations broke out that cut through the streets of Cairo that were filled with angry masses. This angry atmosphere caused the preparation for the officers of July 23rd movement, led by Major General Mohammed Naguib in the same year. We are honoring the names of the Ismailia martyrs from the Egyptian police soldiers over and over again, so that they remain immortal to what God wills.